There is a lie that has quietly taken hold of the modern mind. A lie that sounds comforting, almost spiritual, but in reality leads to weakness. It tells you that if something is meant to happen, it will happen. That if God wills it, then effort is unnecessary. That surrender means doing nothing. But this is not faith. This is passivity disguised as belief. Centuries ago, Saint Augustine of Hippo gave us a principle that cuts through this illusion with absolute clarity. Pray as if everything depended on God. Work as if everything depended on you. This is not just a sentence. It is a structure for life, a discipline of the soul, a correction to the extremes that destroy people, arrogance on one side and laziness on the other. To pray as if everything depended on God means first accepting something most people resist. You are not in control. No matter how intelligent you are, how disciplined you try to be, or how much you plan, there are forces beyond you. There are moments in life where your strength is not enough, your clarity is not enough, your will is not enough. And instead of breaking you, this realization is meant to humble you. Because prayer is not about asking for things like a transaction. It is about alignment. It is about placing yourself in reality. When you truly pray, you are stepping out of the illusion that you can carry everything alone. You bring your fears, your confusion, your ambitions, your failures, and you place them before God without filters. And in doing so, something changes, not always your circumstances, but your perception. Your mind becomes quieter, your direction becomes clearer, your soul becomes anchored in something that does not shift with the chaos of the world. In a world that constantly pulls your attention in every direction, this is power, real power. The ability to be still, to focus, to reconnect with what actually matters. But this is where most people stop. They pray, and then they wait. They ask, and then they remain still. They hope, but they do not act. And slowly, without realizing it, their faith becomes an excuse to delay, to avoid responsibility, to remain comfortable. There is a dangerous mindset that hides behind spiritual language. It says, God will take care of it, while doing nothing. No discipline, no effort, no movement. But this is not trust in God. It is avoidance of reality. Because faith was never meant to replace action. It was meant to strengthen it. This is why the second part of the sentence is just as important and far more uncomfortable. Work as if everything depended on you. This is where illusions collapse. Because this demands ownership. It demands that you wake up and take responsibility for your life, your time, your habits, your direction. It demands that you act even when you do not feel like it, even when motivation is gone, even when no one is watching. Because the truth is simple. If you truly believed your actions mattered, you would not waste your time the way you do. You would not delay what you know you must do. You would not live distracted, jumping from one meaningless thing to another. You would move with intention. You would build discipline. You would treat your time as something sacred. Working as if everything depended on you does not mean becoming obsessed with control. It means eliminating excuses. It means understanding that your effort is your responsibility, regardless of the outcome. You show up, you do the work, you remain consistent, not because it guarantees success, but because it is the only way to live with integrity. And here is where the balance reveals itself. If you only pray, you become passive. If you only work, you become arrogant. But if you combine both, you become something rare. You act with full intensity, but without anxiety. You strive for greatness, but without pride. You endure suffering, but without despair. Because now you understand something that most people never will. You are responsible for your effort, but not in control of the outcome. This changes the way you experience everything. Most anxiety comes from trying to control what you cannot. You worry about results, about the future, about how things will turn out. But this principle cuts through all of it. You pray, placing the outcome in God's hands. You work, giving everything you have in the present moment, and then you let go. Not because you don't care, but because you understand your role. This creates a different kind of peace, not the fragile peace of comfort, but the solid peace of clarity. You are no longer paralyzed by uncertainty, because you are no longer trying to control what was never yours to control. And this is not abstract. This applies to your daily life, to your work, your relationships, your struggles, your purpose. You wake up, and instead of immediately entering distraction, you pause. You pray with intention. You ask for strength, for clarity, for direction, and then you stand up and move. You do the work others avoid. You stay focused when others drift. You remain disciplined when others give in to comfort. You build something even when progress is slow, even when results are invisible, and at the end of the day you return to prayer, not as an escape, but as a realignment. You reflect, you surrender what you cannot control, and you prepare to do it again. Most people will never live this way, because it demands too much honesty, too much effort, too much responsibility. It is easier to blame circumstances, to blame other people, or to hide behind empty spirituality that asks nothing of you. But you cannot grow like that. You cannot become who you were meant to be by avoiding effort or avoiding truth, because both spiritual and personal growth require the same thing: surrender and action together. At the end of your life, it will not be enough to say that you believed. The real question will be whether you lived according to that belief, whether you disciplined your actions, whether you pursued what is true, whether you carried the responsibilities that were given to you, whether you prayed and then rose. So remember this clearly. Pray as if everything depended on God, because without Him you are lost. But work as if everything depended on you, because without action nothing changes. This is the balance most people never find. This is the path that demands everything from you, but gives you clarity in return. And this is the mind you must build.